Hey there, this is me, Mohammad Vamik, and we will be continuing our lecture from the last class. This is for grade 10 computer sciences, and I believe the areas that we have completed is from chapter number 7. We have completed the program development life cycle. Then I discussed with all of you regarding the validation and verification part. So even before going on to the next topic, I just first want to share something with all of you, and that is that yes, our classes are right here in front of you. So in the first class, what I can see right here is that just give me a moment. Okay, so for the first class, which one is right here? I can see the all of the responses. I can see that the activities has been submitted to me by Muhammad Hussain Abdul Mahdi Al Basri, Hassan Nabil, Muhammad Tamir Saber, Al Mohsen. So this activity is submitted by these students. Just in case if you have not submitted your activity, please upload it right here so that I can check it. Then again, for the second class of the program development life cycle, here I can see the answers of Mr. I can see answers of Muhammad Hussain Abdul Mahdi Al Basri, Hassan Nabil, Abdullah Muhammad, and Yasin Mohammed Al Mohsen, Mohammad Tamir Saber, Turab Jahangir, Abdul Rahman, Adam Ahmad Antar, Yasin Mohammed. Okay, these students have completed activity 2. Just in case if you have not completed, please complete the following activity. Then for the third lecture, which is right here, I cannot see much of the replies. Only some students have replied to that. That basically consists of Hassan Nabil, Abdullah Muhammad, Khalid Masood, Turab Jahangir, Yasin Muhammad, Abdul Mohsen Muhammad Al Breman. So the point is that for all those students who have not completed their activities and they have not submitted right here, I will be creating a record sheet and where I will be putting the check marks of all of the students who have completed and who have not completed, which is basically going to help me track your progress record. Other than that, I also have submitted. Okay, no. Right now, I have not given any homework, but just as I complete the topic, I will be giving it to you. So for now, all you have to do is that you need to complete all of the areas. So this video is specifically for those students who have completed these 3 activities. So you can go along with that. And just in case if you have not completed those 3 activities, first of all, you need to complete them and then you need to watch this video. My support is there. You can either type me a comment or you can email it to me right here. So I'm here to facilitate you. Just in case if you have any problems, you can definitely ask to me. So I'm continuing the lecture for all those students who have completed their last activities. And in this class, what we are going to discuss today is basically testing, right? I have discussed right with you in the program development lifecycle that I have analysis, I have design, I have testing, and I have coding. So now testing is perhaps one of the most important area where what I usually do is that I test my software, each of its component against errors. I check it that if it is working or not. You know what that so creating softwares is really a big task. It's not only done by a single person, it's done by a team member. So perhaps if you have created a software, now you also need to test that software that either if it is working or not. For example, if you created a software that is basically used to calculate the student marks and the student marks are out of 0 till 50. So how you are going to test that? You are going to test that data by adding the marks, right? And those marks are going to be right, for example, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. But similarly, if you add a marks that are above than 50, it is going to generate an error. But what I'm trying to convey right here is that you prepared that piece of software, but now you are testing that software. with some test data, with some piece of data, right? So this is testing that what we are going to discuss in today's class. So basically, in today's class, we are going to discuss suggest and apply suitable test data. Suggest and apply suitable test data that is limited to a normal data, that is limited to an abnormal data, that is limited to an extreme data, that is limited to an boundary data. So that basically means that I have four categories of test data, and that's what we are going to discuss in today's class. That how can I test the data? What are these areas? What do you understand by an extreme data? What do you understand by an boundary data? So we are going to discuss in today's class regarding testing. So the keywords that we are going to discuss is going to be a normal data and abnormal data, extreme data, or boundary data. We are going to discuss this. So, as a starter activity, we have already discussed the validation and verification, and I hope that I do not need to discuss these things into detail. You already know that whenever you want to check that if the data entered while inputting is accurate or not, this is validation. But verification is that when you have a source and you are matching that data. For validation, you have different types, right? Like range check, length check, things like this. For verification, you have double entry and visual checking. So apart from that, we are going to discuss here the test type test data. So even before starting this, let me first give you an idea that first of all why there is a need for test data. So the point is that, for example, if right here I have created a piece of software, and this piece of software was basically asked by my manager. He just said that you need to develop this piece of software, and what this software should do is that it should calculate the percentage of students with their corresponding to with their marks. That means that by having all of their marks, the software has to take a total value and then calculate the marks. And the software said that the marks for all of the students are out of 75. Right? Now, if you want to test this, so what you are going to do? First of all, you are going to have an example like if a student has secured 50 marks, it is going to be accepted. 10 marks also accepted, 30 also accepted, 40 also accepted, 50 also accepted. That means that all of the marks that are below 75 are accepted. But if they are above 75, then they are not accepted. So if they are below 75 and they are accepted, that means that the data that I'm using is a normal test data. A normal test data is basically the one that is used to test your data and is usually accepted. So what is a normal test data? A normal test data is basically a data that the code is expected to accept, right? Like I created a software, and in that software I should must be having the marks of students that are less than 75. So what are the values that I will be expecting? I will not be expecting a value that is 1,000. I will not be expecting a value that is 100. I will also be not be expecting a value that is in negative. So all the values that are expected in a given scenario is going to be considered as a normal test data. So what is again a normal test data? Like a program has been written that calculates sales for an outdoor festival. So here is another example. I have a piece of a software, I have a piece of a program, and what is that doing? It is actually calculating the sales for an outdoor festival. A customer is allowed to buy 1 and 5 tickets. A customer is allowed to buy 1 and 5 tickets. Identify three different types of test data you would use to test input for this program. For each type, give an example of appropriate data type. Now, it says that if it is a customer and that customer is only allowed to purchase tickets between 1 and 5, that means that it only has the value to purchase ticket 1, ticket 2, ticket 3, ticket 4, ticket 5, right? Because that's a given range. So if he purchases tickets in between 1 till 5, right? Like for example 2, 3, 4. So that means that this is a normal data. This is what I'm expecting for the customer to do. But similarly, if I ask you that the customer wants to purchase 10 tickets or the customer wants to purchase 100 tickets, now this is not going to be the case because this is not the data that I am expecting. So if it is a normal data is the one that the code is expected to accept. A program has been written that calculates sales for an outdoor festival. A customer is allowed to buy between 1 and 5 tickets. Identify three types of test data you it would be testing for the input. So obviously it is going to be 2, 3, 4 because that is basically what I'm expecting, right? If it is 1 till in between 5, that makes it three possibilities. So I hope it's clear to all of you. Now, the second area that we are going to discuss is an abnormal test data. So if it is an abnormal test data, so this is the data that the code should not accept. That means that in this example of if the customer is requested to buy the tickets that are from 1 till 5, and similarly if someone enters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that means that this is the data that it shouldn't be accepting. Similarly, right in this example of 75 marks, if someone added 80 marks, if someone added 90 marks, that is something that I should not be expecting, right? So if it is a data that is not expected, then it is to be known as an abnormal data. What is an abnormal data? An abnormal data is a data that the code should not accept, right? So let's check one of the example of that. So for example, if a program has been written that calculates sales for an outdoor festival, a customer is allowed to buy between 1 and 5 tickets. Identify three different types of test data you would use to test input for this program. For each type, give an example of an appropriate data type. So for example, if someone entered 0, 0, someone entered 6, someone entered 1.5, the value that I'm not expecting, so this is going to be abnormal. Abnormal means that that is not certainly in the routine. I'm not expecting that value. I hope that it's clear to you. Other than that, now if I'm discussing this extreme data. So if it is basically an extreme data, that means that I am testing the largest and the smallest acceptable value. So if it is basically an extreme test data, that means that I am looking forward to of the values. One value is going to be the largest, the second value is going to be smallest, and the values are going to be of a boundary. A boundary means that if it is either going to be the smallest value or either if it is going to be the most maximum value. So for example, if you can see right here that a program has been written that calculates the sales for an outdoor festival, a customer is allowed to buy tickets between 1 and 5. So what is the smallest value between the values of 1 and 5? Obviously, 1 is going to be considered as the smallest value, which is the extreme smallest value. And the 75 is going to be the extreme largest value. So again, identify three different types of test data. So this is an extreme example of an extreme one. The examples are going to be 1 and 5. So for example, if this was basically the example, now what is going to be the extreme values right here? The smallest value is going to be 1 and the largest value here is going to be 75. So this is going to be known as an extreme data. Other than that, the next data type that I have right here is basically a boundary one. So a boundary one is basically the largest, the smallest acceptable value and the corresponding smallest and the largest rejected value. Now, let me explain you this. So let's explain you with this an example. So for example, if a program has been written that calculates sales for an outdoor festival, a customer is allowed to buy a ticket between 1 and 5. So what is going to be the boundary data? The boundary data first of all is going to be 1 and 0. 1 and 0 is going to be one of the value that is going to be accepted, and the one and the value that is not going to be accepted. Boundary data basically means the data that is again at the most boundaries of that. I hope that you all are aware of cricket matches. I hope you all are aware of football matches, and you know that when the boundary is crossed, basically in football, they scores a goal. If the boundary is crossed in cricket, they basically scores a six. So a boundary data is basically the largest value. It can be the largest value that is acceptable. It can be the smallest value, but yet acceptable. So that basically means that it is an acceptable value, but the point is that it is largest and it is smallest. So the smallest is going to be either 0 or 1 and the largest is going to be either 5 or 6. So I hope it is clear to you now that if a customer is allowed to buy tickets between 1 and 5, so what is going to be the largest acceptable value? It is going to be either 5 or 6, and the smallest is going to be either 0 or 1 depending upon where you want to start it. So this is for your boundary part. So, so far I have here four of the areas completed. That is basically the examples of a test data. First of all, I have a normal app data, then I have an abnormal data, then I have an extreme data, and then I have a boundary data. Okay, so I hope that the test data types is clear to all of you. And again, at the end of the lecture, let me give you a recap of all what we have discussed in today's class. So basically, I started today's class with the testing area. The testing basically means that when you have finished your program, you need to carry out the testing. And why is the reason of testing? The reason is that to check that if your software is fully working or not, right? If you need to check that if your software is fully working or not. If you want to check that if your software does not crashes at all, you just need to check that if your software is meeting all the requirements. So there can be a number of reasons that why I want to test the software. You can write your own as well. So these are some given. So in the testing part, we have some of the data that we need to test it. So basically I have four types of data. This is the normal data, this is the abnormal data, this is the abnormal data, and this is the boundary data. So for example, if it's basically a normal data is basically the one that the program should accept. I have discussed with you, this is the response that I am expecting. If it's an abnormal one, abnormal basically means that it shouldn't be accepting. It is not something that I expect. Extreme is basically like what is going to be the edge of what it is allowed, right? Like for example, I have a pen right here, right in front of me. So basically what is going to be the edges of this pen, what is going to be the extreme limits of this pen. This is going to be the this corner and this is going to be this corner. So when I'm referring to this area where it means extreme, so that means that it has to be a part of your data but it yet has to be accepted. So right, I can also say that this is this from this area, that this is a part of my pen, and this is a part of my pen, right? Like, but I cannot say that this is something that is a part of the pen. So I hope that it's quite understandable to you that it is acceptable and it is in the range. So as far as your extreme data is concerned, extreme data means that data that is at the edge what is allowed. For the boundary ones, it is the data that is on the edges of either being accepted or being rejected. So it's either up to you that even if it is being accepted and either if it is being rejected. So for example, let's check this example right here. A program allow the users to enter their age as a whole number between 10 and 100. That means that the what is the program doing? The program is basically allowing the user to enter their age as a whole number, and the whole number has this limit that is 10 till 100. So if it's a normal data, it is going to be all of the values that are going to be inclusive inside 10 and 100, right? Like for example, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. All of the values that I can expect to receive. If it is an abnormal data, it is going to be -1. It is going to be 12.33. It is going to be 200. It is going to be 1000. The values that I am not expecting. If it is an extreme data, so the largest number accepted. So the largest number accepted can be considered as 100, and the smallest number accepted is going to be 10. Now, if I'm referring to the boundary type, now in terms of boundary, there are two things. The data is either going to be accepted or the data is either going to be rejected, but it is right at the boundary. So for example, either side of the large bounds. For example, if it is 100, it is going to be accepted. If it is 101, it is going to be rejected, but it is going to be at the boundaries. So this is basically the upper bound or the largest bound. If I'm referring to the smallest bound, so it is going to be -9, which is not -9. This is going to be 9. So if it is going to be 9, that means that this is going to be rejected. But if it is 10, it is going to be accepted. So this is basically an example that a program that allows the user to enter their age as whole number. So I hope this example is clear to you. Again, right here, I have another example. So let's work out on this as well. So as far as this example is this example is concerned, it says that basically there is a user and a user needs to enter password, and that is password is at least 8 characters long. Now, if it is an 8 characters long, if I'm going to use this test data, which is going to be normal, so any set of 8 or more characters, but they must be text and they should be having a speech mark. So if it this is what I'm expecting, so this is accepted. What is going to be abnormal? Anything that is less than 7 or less than that. So this is going to be not to be accepted. What is going to be the extreme one? Any digits with 8 characters only. It is going to be an extreme one. And boundary again, you know it. Either side of the 8 character bound, 7 characters or 8. So this is it for this part, and here are some important definitions given. First of all, what is the process of coding? Coding is basically the writing of a program using any of the programming language. Testing, I have explained to you already. The repeated use of softwares to test different possibilities, to test different probabilities that what would happen in different scenarios. Then again, the test data. The test data is concerned with that what data should be input. Is it going to be normal? Is it going to be abnormal? Is it going to be extreme? Is it going to be boundary? And so on. The definitions are right here. So that's it for today's class, and I hope I'm clear to all of you. I don't basically intend to rush all of these topics because quality matters the most other than quantity. So I prefer all of you to complete your remaining activities and submit it to me so that I can check. And that's all for today. I hope it's clear to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.